Thank you very much. I think we can start now. Once again, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Lynette, and I'm conducting today's webinar. I've been in Porters for slightly over 6 years in various roles, and currently I'm leading the marketing activities for global marketing team. I hope you enjoy today's webinar and learn something new. This is the agenda for today. First, I will briefly introduce Porters, then touch on some of the essential data in recruitment, share some success stories and recommendations, and then conclude the session. Now, let me give you a brief introduction about Porters. The company was established in 2001 in Japan, with the headquarters in Tokyo, a branch office in Osaka, and a subsidiary in Singapore. The main solution offered by Porters is an all-in-one cloud-based ATS CRM, which can be used for human resource businesses such as recruitment, staffing, maid agencies, RPO, and outsourcing. Currently, we hold the #1 share of Japan market. We have a client base of more than 2,000 clients, 2,000 companies in Japan and overseas. And we also have presence in 11 countries. These here are just some of our clients. Porter's system is an end-to-end recruitment solution that fosters business efficiency and placement maximization. It is equipped with automated features, which speeds up operations and contribute to increase the number of placements and revenue maximization. The core functionalities of the systems are central data management, and therefore everyone can access the latest information at any given time. There's optimized job candidate matching, which increases productivity, and also accelerate PDCA cycle by visualizing KPIs and other business performance metrics. With the system, also you can standardize workflow, and therefore it increases the efficiency of the consultants. Today's topic is about data-driven strategies. So let's look at some of the essential data in recruitment business. These are just examples, and I know there are many kinds of data. So what I'm going to be highlighting today are just examples of some of those essential data. And the first one is data related to business development. Some of this data is the number of clients a company deals with, the number of job descriptions they're handling, some target roles or industries. Another type of data could be candidate sourcing, related to candidate sourcing. In this regard, which media these candidates came from. Is this media paid for or unpaid for? And based on your experience or the company's experience, which medium works best for conversion? And here conversion means at least going to the final interview and ideally placement. So which kind of media have been facilitating your company to make a placement or go to the final interview? Another type of data is conversion rates. And this is the conversion from, let's say, sourcing of candidates all the way to when the candidate is placed or joins a company. For more general roles, for example, sales or marketing, you may find that you have to source for many candidates and the placement rate is quite small. But for more specialized roles, you may find that the conversion rate from sourcing to placement is actually high. So depending on which clients you work with, which industry specialize in, or the candidates, or generally the industry, you may see variations in this. And I think it's an important aspect of recruitment data. And the next one is number of placements or revenue generated. So you'd like to trace, or you'd like to find out these placements that you've made or this much revenue that you have, which clients contributed to the most to this, and which industries and which roles. Another type of data could be unit price. In recruitment, of course, there are different models of payment in terms of, for recruitment companies, how much they're getting from a client when they make a placement. This could be a fixed percentage, or it could be adjustable depending on how competitive the role is or how competitive the candidate is. Depending on which one it is, for a recruitment company, it's always of more advantage to have roles filled, these roles that have a higher unit price. For example, some companies will have campaigns that if you place a candidate within this month, will offer 100% fee, when usually the standard is about 25 or 30, depending on the market you're working with. So as a recruitment company, if you have several of these clients that offer higher unit price, of course, it converts to a greater reward to a company. So ideally, or the ideal situation is to have all this essential data well managed, in sync, and this data is utilized to give maximum output. But reality is that there are many challenges related to creating or handling of essential data in recruitment. These are just some of examples of the challenges, which include sourcing, business development, pipeline conversion, and data input can be cumbersome, especially for consultants, because it will depend on the speed of the typing speed of the consultant, the amount of data that needs to be input. So that can also bring variations. And also data shared across the company, depending on how the company operates. Some data may be shared, other data may not be shared, which impacts the company differently, most cases negatively. And there's also the matter of consultants turnover, which is unavoidable to some extent, but it still has impact on the business. The good news is that some of these challenges can be countered within the organization. So for example, a company can create a work framework so that all the consultants or all the employees of the company work based on a fixed framework. And even if a new member joins the company, they follow the framework that has been set. And this helps to make the flow of operation very, very smooth. And also the company can advocate for creating a powerful database for the company. We'll talk about details about database later, a powerful database later, but the company has that responsibility to advocate for creating a powerful database to the employees, for everybody to have an understanding of what that is. It is also important for the company to train the employees and also educate them. By training, I mean to show them how work is done, and educating is to explain to them why things are done in a certain way, because there's always a reason and there's always a result of what activities are being done. So this information needs to be explained to the consultants so that they can understand why this is being done and what output to expect when they do those activities. And the last one is, in this day and age of digital transformation, we cannot emphasize enough about automation in our tasks, because there's some tasks in the recruitment business that are repetitive and administrative-like tasks, which cannot be avoided. They're very important in the process, but because they're repetitive, the same tasks from time to time, it might take some time off the recruiter's calendar or a day's time schedule. So if these repetitive tasks can be automated, it will free up some time for the consultants to concentrate on more activities that are directly linking to revenue generation. So if these challenges related to essential data is well addressed, then you can expect to have systematic operations and easily identify bottlenecks in your operations and be able to formulate strategies to resolve them. Now, I would like to share with you success stories from 3 of Porter's clients, 2 of which are in Japan and 1 outside Japan. The first one is Human Global Talent Company, which experienced increase in revenue by 197% year on year and individual productivity increase of 157%. They were able to receive these results based on tracking the data on the system, managing KPI, and following up on the details to be able to strategize for the growth of the company, and were able to see these results. And the second company is Riraco in Singapore, which experienced a revenue growth of 4 to 5 times and were able to expand to 21 branches in 10 countries within 7 years. So mainly what this company did, they collected the best practices and applied them to a different branch and keep on improving on this and keep on sharing information on sharing know-how of how they're handling data. And it helped them to grow quite fast. I think the rate is quite fast. And the next company is D&I. This company is based in Japan. They were able to increase their job candidate match rate by 300%, and also candidate submissions to 200%. This was partly due to automation of the processes and also partly due to monitoring the previous records and identifying areas they needed to improve on. And as a result, they were able to see this kind of growth and also increase the productivity of the consultants by 120%. This is just general information about these case studies or these success stories from this company, but there's detailed information regarding this. For this, during this session, I will not address the detailed information. I will just highlight this success or this outcome of their activities. And these companies, although they're very different companies with very different background, they attributed the success to a few factors. One is visualizing of progress. That is being aware of how many interviews are in progress, for example, having how many placements they have done, how many they need to do, how many were done in the previous period, and also what kind of activities the consultants are doing, how much BD, business development they're doing, how many candidates they get to speak with at a certain time, and that kind of information, be able to have this in a visual representation. The next one is about setting goals and clearly following up on them. At first, this could be a tricky task because you don't have anything to base your goals on. But after you operate for some time, you're able to know that this is how much you've been achieving. So next we can target achieve this much. So it's important to analyze the progress and set some goals and keep on improving on those goals. And the last point is improving individual and collective productivity. This plays a very key role in terms also when getting in new employees joining your team. If the productivity of this new joiner is so different in terms of being very low as compared to the top performer, of course, you will feel the difference. But if there's a clearly outlined flow of operation then this new joiner is able to follow the flow of operation and be able to give output that may not be necessarily exact as the top performer, but not so low as compared to the top performer. And with this all, you're able to increase the speed and volume of your output. And also in tracking the individual and collective productivity, you're able to identify the areas that need to focus or need attention, and clear bottlenecks in your process, and also, of course, measure progress. And in doing all this, finding the best practices at each stage and running the PDCA cycle help them to keep improving each time, because there's no one way that works all the time. There's always something to improve on. The requirements sometimes change, the market changes. So it's necessary to keep on identifying the best practices and keep on applying these best practices in your process or within your company to keep on improving and making better outcomes. Porters has interacted with over 3,000 business owners in Japan and outside of Japan through our software solutions, and also through Porters Magazine, where we publish interviews from players in the industry. After analyzing stories from clients and these industry players, it was clear that the game changer for success in recruitment business is standardization of business process flow. Standardization is complemented by other contributors, which are supporting like visualization of progress, establishment of goals and reviewing current goals, improving of individual and collective productivity, deployment of best practices across consultants, managing all the relevant information centrally, and running the cycle repeatedly. As you can see, some of these aspects have been highlighted in the case studies of our successful customer stories. And this cycle just emphasizes of how important it is to have this in your business. And with these supporting elements, it is important to define them in business process, because if all the consultants have the same understanding of these elements, it means they'll be working from the same manual and give the same output. I'll give an example. So in the business process flow, it is important to determine or to make it clear at what point a candidate is considered ready to be introduced to a client for a certain role, or at what point revenue is considered as earned by a consultant. Of course, each and every step has the areas that need to be defined within a company. This is just to name an example of what can be considered. To build data-driven strategies, you need to take stock, learn, and do Kaizen. I will go into each of these points and explain further. About taking stock, you need to look at how data is being managed currently in your company, identify the challenges that come with that kind of data management, that is taking stock. And then there's learning. It is always good to learn from each other within the company, and also from other businesses in forums like this. You can also refer to the success model and see how that applies to your business. All this is part of learning. And Kaizen is a Japanese word that means constant improvement or keep improving. In business, it's also very important to identify improvement points and keep finding best practices at different stages and implementing them in the business. Now, I'd like to move on to the recommendations for building data-driven strategies. And first one is building a powerful database. Without data, there'll be no insight And therefore, it is very important to have the data. Powerful data is asset to the company and can be maximized to full potential. Let's say, for a case whereby a consultant sources for a very good candidate that is considered very competitive in the market. However, this candidate does not find the jobs recommended by the consultant appealing. If this consultant decides to end the communication with the candidate at this point, then it may turn to be a loss for the company if another consultant has a job that this candidate will consider. Therefore, a synergy within the company will ensure that no opportunity is lost in such cases. It is important for the team to work towards building a powerful database. And as additional benefit, it also comes in handy when consultants leave the company, which also is inevitable. Benefits of data being an asset should be well communicated to the employees or to the consultants. And also they should be provided with the relevant tools to have a smooth flow of operation, especially in this day of technology. Automation and linkages are quite impactful for recruitment business. The next recommendation is about candidate acquisition. A company can capitalize on the sources that have proved to work better. And this, of course, can be seen from the previous track records, which will be in the data. If you have a good database to be able to track this, you'll be able to get this information. So the sources that have been able to get candidates that are placed, or at least get the final interview, probably will work better than ones that provide those candidates that end at first interview or at the screening process. I will also recommend for consultants to actively source for candidates that are easily placed and promote them to potential clients. I believe most recruitment agencies do this, but I just like to emphasize on working with this in a more data-oriented or data-based approach. So if you have placed some certain candidates to a certain company for certain roles, you have an idea of the kind of candidates that they're looking for. And some of this information is not necessarily listed on the job description that you want this kind of candidate. Sometimes it's linked to a personality of the company and personality of this candidate. Sometimes it's linked to this, not necessarily the skills, but it's the hard skills, but the soft skills. So if you have previous records of this kind of placements, you're able to refer to that and get similar candidates for these kind of clients and recommend to them. I believe by doing this, there's also a higher chance of making more placements. The next one is about business development. I would recommend to identify and prioritize business development targets according to the industries and roles that easily convert. That is very similar to the candidate explanation that I've given. And also identify the clients whose process move faster, because working with a client whose process moves faster, it means you will have more processes that are ongoing, and have chances of making more placements within a short time. Also, it'd be good to focus on roles that have higher unit price or fee, depending on if the client is doing a campaign or it's a role that is more competitive. You can try to get similar roles that are that competitive, that have a high unit price, because more or less the effort made to make one placement of a basic fee price is more or less the same as effort used to make a placement of a higher unit price. I would also recommend to work with clients that have higher potential. For example, a company that is expanding and they're likely to have more open positions. If you're already working with them, then you have more chance of getting more roles to work on. And if it's not a client that is active, then you can of course, approach them to work with them and introduce candidates to them. The next one is about the conversion rate. And this conversion is from sourcing candidates to placement, or from the time you conduct business development, you get a role to work on, to the time you fill that role. So within the company, I think it's important to clearly define each stage in the recruitment pipeline and communicate this information to the consultants accordingly, because these stages will also be used to manage the KPIs for the company. And being able to track these conversions, you'll be able to identify the best practices and also see which areas you have a backlog and you need to work on. And once you know how you're converting your pipeline, it is easier to strategize to get higher conversions. For example, it may need a skilled consultant to do the closing, or maybe you need to work more with the client to be able to find suitable candidates to convert to the interview stages and something like that. So you need, first of all, prior data, prior experience and prior data of this, and using that to strategize for the future higher conversions. The other aspect is from the management perspective. I would recommend to put up in place guidelines for operations. And this is by centralizing data to have one source of truth. And by doing this, for example, managing KPIs and reports, this information can be extracted from the same source, which makes it easier for different managers or different entities to be able to access the same information at the same time, and in between avoid having to do the manual reporting, which has the risk of misrepresentation or misreporting. And also to the management to follow up on KPIs and reports. And this doesn't necessarily mean to micromanage, but it just gives a picture of how the company is doing or how the business is doing, to see how many clients you're handling, how many active positions, active roles that you have. And this also will give insight to if the company is growing or it's not doing well and needs improvement. And the last point about management aspect is to educate the consultants on the guidelines. Because even if you have these guidelines in place and nobody is following them, then it won't serve the purpose that has been put there for. So it's really important for the consultants to not only be aware, but also follow these guidelines, which contribute to the overall creating of a powerful database. With the named recommendations, expect to be more aware of a company's current state. So if you implement any of those, then you will be more aware of how your company is doing. You will be able to identify areas that need improvement and work towards improving them. This will generally increase work efficiency and output, which contributes to client satisfaction. The consultants will also be able to work with a clearer picture of their goals, and the company can build growth strategies based on the actual state of the business. Now, in conclusion, I would say as a company, it is important to know where you are so that you can strategize better for where you need to be. This can be enhanced by the use of data. By standardizing business process flow, you will be able to track well your business activities, which also is data, and also help your consultants to work efficiently. It will be easier to identify bottlenecks in operations and work towards eliminating them. You can also build strategies based on your current situation and grow your business. Apporters is your partner to support your business to achieve success. We have experience in industry success. We have experience in the industry and also the knowledge to tailor our support to your business needs. Now I would like to take your questions. Please type them in the Q&A tab, either with your name or anonymously. and we'll try to answer them live in the session. If you have any question, please type it in the Q&A. We have one question here. Yes, we have a support people working in portals, so we can support either from Singapore, from our Singapore office, or from Japan. The question is regarding somebody in charge in Thailand country. So we don't have, currently we don't have a consultant or a support office in Thailand, but we can support from Japan or from Singapore. I hope that has answered your question. And just to mention, we do business trips from time to time to meet our partners in various countries, especially Thailand. So that's also an option we can organize. And when we do the next business trip to Thailand, we can meet and talk more. Any other questions? Okay, we have another question. I think the person is asking how they can contact us. Okay, let me put up contact information. Because you're already registered to our webinar, we have your details. We can reach out to you by email, or you can check us out on LinkedIn. We will be able to communicate with you. Any other question? Thank you very much for sharing your contact information. We will contact you. We'll still stay behind to answer any more questions that there may be. So I'd just like to thank you very much for joining us today, for making time. I hope this was an informative session for you and that you've gained some ideas on how you can leverage on data strategies. Sorry, how you can leverage on data to strategize your business growth. Please take a moment to participate in our survey about today's webinar. We would like to hear your experience to help us give better services in future. And if you have inquiries, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll upload this recording of this session to our YouTube channel, so you can share with your colleagues and friends who could not join us today. For now, I will officially close the session, but I'll remain online to address questions that you may be having. And if you don't have a question now, you have it, but you want to contact us later, please feel free to do so. We're always ready to talk to you and assist where we can. Once again, thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you very much. Yes, keep connecting with us on LinkedIn as well. I will also find you on LinkedIn and we can keep in touch. If there are no more questions, I would like to officially close the session. Again, thank you very much for making time, and I hope to see you again in our next webinar. Thank you very much and bye.